dress shop opens before the sun does, lights winking on like confession. Mirrors make the room look twice as full as it is. Tamsin Vale, tam to people who care enough to shorten her name, pins a hem and measures silence in inches. She's the so-called ugly stepsister in a house that doesn't say the word out loud, it just decorates around it. The movie starts with the daily inventory of where attention lands. It lands on her sister B, whose laugh is a ladder everyone wants to climb. It lands on their mother Mary's, a widow who performs elegance as if she's billing by the hour. It skims over Ella, the late-arriving ward whose presence the neighborhood calls a fairy tale and Tam calls a tax write-off. That's the hook, a Cinderella world staged as social reality, and the person the story forgot learning to write in the margins. The city is new money in old stone, a place where charity galas keep score and foundation boards make policy while pretending they only pick canapes. The year's event is the Ascension Ball, a fundraiser whose invite list looks like a trust fall for billionaires. The prince is Leo Arden, the polished heir to a tech fortune that manufactures convenience and privacy for a fee. The theme is sustainability with a chandelier budget. The reason Tam touches any of it is practical. Mary's runs a bespoke atelier that keeps the right people zipped and flattered, and Tam is the hands behind the name. She is good at turning a body into a line that reads as intention. She is invisible because this class likes craftsmanship without the craftsman. Character development starts in small choices. Tam keeps her hair tied back not because she is ashamed of it but because loose hair catches pins and time is money. She owns a single expensive thing, a pair of tailoring shears, and treats them like a passport. She says, "Stand tall more often than you look beautiful," because compliments are a currency she refuses to counterfeit. B's arc begins in sunlight. A social butterfly whose gift is ease, a person who thinks parties are rooms you can earn with charm. Ella is quiet where B is bright, a late edition whose history arrives in fragments. An estate sale that looked like grief, a godmother who is actually a lawyer. A note about conditional guardianship that Maurice keeps in a drawer with satin rosettes. The house holds 3 young women like a chord, one carry note, one melody, one harmony no one listens for yet. The opening incident is not a pumpkin, it's a list. The ball, open innovation contest, part PR, part access ritual offers a grant to a design that reworks old materials into something worth wearing. Ella finds the call for proposals in a stack of mail nobody opened because mail is for bills. She hands it to Tam with a look that is neither pleading nor flattering. "You could win this," she says, and it lands like sacrilege. Mary's laughs without malice and says clients will notice if they start dressing the help. B says she'll model if Tam wants a body for photos, but only if the dress doesn't look earnest. Tam doesn't answer. The movie lets her think. That refusal to hurry is how we learn her. She doesn't brush off hope. She folds it and puts it in a drawer with chalk. Leo's entrance is mediated by screens. He appears on morning shows apologizing for the company's previous CEO, his father, with the practiced grace of someone raised to inherit not just money but narrative. His philanthropic pitch is frictionless. Reusability at scale, a phrase that makes shareholders clap and seamstresses frown. He toured the Vale atelier with cameras in tow, buying a suit he'll never wear because supporting small business polls well. He meets B in a frame shaped by a publicist and B performs her best self on cue. He meets Tam by accident, a pricked finger, a drop of blood on a lapel, a look that notices. He says, "You got it," meaning the stain. She hears, "You exist," and doesn't trust it. World rules arrive as etiquette masquerading as physics. Rule 1, in this society beauty is logistics, the most expensive thing in the room is the effort nobody sees. Rule 2, the story people tell about you becomes the floor you stand on unless you build your own. Rule 3, kindness is often a tactic, generosity is sometimes a weapon. Rule 4, what looks like magic is always labor. The film uses these like gravity, not sermon. Tam breathes them, B floats on them, Ella reads them like sheet music. The pressure begins when the Balls Committee posts the shortlist for the design grant and Tam's submission, stitched from decommissioned opera curtains and a rack of return gowns, lands in the top 5. Mari starts smiling with her eyes, which is how she telegraphs calculation. B says this could be brand, the way she says sunlight could be content. Ella presses the hem as if pressing the moment, careful and calm. The design's shape is controversial. It doesn't cinch, it skims. It doesn't force the wearer to be small, it gives them room to live. Tam wins attention she didn't ask for and starts to speak a little louder around the shop without noticing. That is her first transformation, and the film has the decency to let it be quiet. The counterpressure arrives in whispers that start in the comments section and swim upstream. Tam stole the concept. Tam faked the sustainability claims. Tam is using Ella. Tam is hiding behind Mary's. The rumor storm has too much specificity to be random and too little evidence to be reapplied as law. It looks like sabotage written by someone who knows where belief lives. The godmother lawyer Sierra calls it what it is, reputational triage. She tells Mary's to pull Tam from the list. Mary's donates a dress to the ball instead. She calls it diplomacy. Tam calls it surrender, B calls it staying in rooms that matter. Ella says nothing and starts making tea. The first act ends with an invitation addressed to B, embossed and heavy, not just to the ball but to Leo's private post-gala after. It sits on the kitchen table like a prediction. Tam holds it with clean fingers and slides it back under the ribbon. The camera holds on the way she does not flinch. Preparation becomes the plot engine. The atelier transitions from service shop to war room. Tam rebuilds her entry dress in secret because losing a slot on a list doesn't erase the dress. She works nights, turning curtains into movement and bones into comfort, cutting for a body she knows well Ella's not B's, because the dress is a thesis and Ella can carry it without the performance people expect from B. This is not a betrayal, it is a choice to put intention on the right frame. B half knows this and half fears it. The sister dynamic stops being a fairy tale cliché and starts being a weather system. They collide and retreat, care and compete, the way sisters do in houses that teach scarcity. Character arcs sharpen under floodlights. Tam grows more candid the closer the ball gets. She starts setting boundaries with Mari's that sound like disrespect and are actually adult conversation. I won't hem lies. Mari's backstory leaks in. A widow who learned that proximity counts more than talent, who became good at placing people in sightlines because her own work was always the background. The film refuses to punish her for that. It shows how the tactic breaks when the person you're placing wants to be a person, not a prop. Ella's development is the movie's clearest grace note. She isn't a saint. She's a planner who has had to be careful with every public step because adoption brought her into a house that doesn't like mess even when mess is honest. She likes the dress because it is honest. She tells Tam that and their alliance turns into friendship because neither of them makes the other smaller to feel big. B watches, jealous of the fluency but not resentful of their joy. She can be petty without being cruel, and that distinction is the film's mercy on her. The ball itself is art-directed abundance. Reclaimed wood centerpieces posing as virtue-smart wristbands that track impact engagement, a stage drenched in light that acts like absolution. Leo glides through it distributing eye contact like currency. The subtext is practical. His board wants to close a rebrand and putting a human face on virtue is the fastest way to paper over the math underneath. His interest in B is convenient. His interest in Tam, when it flickers, is inconvenient to everyone who believes in choreographed chemistry. He asks Tam an engineering question about her dress in a corner where cameras won't find them. It's the most romantic thing the film permits him to do. The antagonist is not a wicked stepmother, it's a publicist's email. The rumor we met earlier becomes a press item. Anonymous source questions winnings in Ascension design grant. The language is careful because lawyers exist. The timing is an attack because strategy exists. Sierra urges Tam to lie low. Mari says the house can't survive a scandal and suggests Tam let B wear a different designer. B argues Tam should step into the light and force a confrontation because she believes in scripts where pluck wins. Ella says that visibility without control is a trap. The kitchen becomes a courtroom and a church. No one calls anyone wicked. Everyone is trying to survive the room they were taught to live in. Tam makes two concrete choices. She refuses to recast the dress for B because story integrity matters and because B deserves a night that isn't someone else's thesis. She refuses to withdraw her design because truth needs a body to stand on. She chooses Ella not because Ella is perfect but because Ella is prepared to be read. They sew in the back room while the house sleeps, and this is the best kind of montage. Quiet labor, needle through fabric, a hem pressed flat, the camera lingering on hands that make meaning. The middle movement plays the ball like a heist where the prize is dignity. Ella arrives in the dress, and people look twice before they remember they're supposed to be impressed by sparkle, not ease. Leo notices because he's bored of floor piles that beg and the dress does not beg. B notices because it's the first time she's watched the room listen to someone in their family without notes. Mari's notices because donors smile with their teeth. The rumor storm hits peak just as the camera is angled toward Ella, and it's clear someone timed push notifications to steal oxygen. Tam watches the algorithm do its work and refuses to swallow the story written for her. She walks into a side room where the judging panel waits and asks to show documentation. The film makes bureaucracy cinematic by letting competence be a kind of charisma. Opposition has a face now. Brianni Vale, Mari's sister, who runs a rival atelier at a higher price point and built her ladder out of other people's time. She hired the anonymous source. She used a client's throwaway comment to plant the seed. She wanted Tam off the list because Tam's dress sells a world where skill outruns brand. The confrontation is verbal, no glass shatters. Brianni calls Tam resourceful in the tone some people use for aggressive. Tam answers with swatches and receipts and a calm that forces the committee chair to act like a person instead of a posture. It doesn't fix everything, it fixes the scope of the lie. B's contribution is the line that only she can deliver. She takes the mic at a break in the program, intending to do the usual and lavish charm on donors, and instead she tells a small story about Tam's hands turning thrift store mistakes into dresses that made girls feel like the day might go their way. It's not a brand speech, it's a sister speech. She names Ella's steadiness. She thanks Mari's for the roof without pretending the roof is the sun. The room recalibrates. Leo's nod matters less than the murmurs that follow, the sound of people trying on a different narrative and finding that it fits. The last minutes before the cut are the movie's quietest suspense. The judges retreat with their paperwork and their fear of headlines. Brianni texts a partner and receives no reply. Mari squeezes Tam's hand and lets go because letting go is growth for her. Ella waits like she was taught, spine long, breath even, face soft, and Tam lets herself look at the dress as if she didn't make it, as if it simply arrived the way good ideas do, inevitable after the work. The scene sets the table for an outcome the recap will not spoil. After the ball, the world applies its usual pressure. A blogger posts side-by-side photos of Tam and Ella with captions that try to make women into categories. A donor offers to buy the dress for a museum, which is how wealth buries living things under glass. A representative from Leo's foundation suggests licensing a version through a partner brand that would pay well and say nothing. Sierra counsels patience and paperwork. Mari starts budgeting for a future that depends less on feast nights. B gets an offer to host a streaming fashion show that will either make her or teach her a lesson. The film treats each possibility as real. It respects the way lives branch without promises. Character arcs land clean and unshowy. Tam grows into a person who can ask for what the work deserves without apologizing for the ask. She stops talking about her face the way mean girls did in 8th grade. She calls herself a designer in a full voice in rooms that take the word from some people and not others. B becomes braver in a smaller way. She learns to enjoy a spotlight without needing it to be only hers. She learns to hand a mic back not as penance but as skill. Maris admits that control has been her drug and begins replacement therapy with humility. Ella gets the rarest transformation of all: she doesn't change to be loved. She keeps being the person whose presence makes other people possible. The movie's themes crystallize without a sermon. Beauty is logistics, yes, but it's also ethics. Who gets to be at ease in their body because a garment met them where they live? Narrative is power, yes, but it's also maintenance. Whose story gets refreshed nightly by attention and whose expires without it? Families are economies, yes, but they're also shelters. Who owes whom protection and when that debt becomes a choice? The Ugly Stepsister defangs the title by showing that ugliness is a label the powerful deploy when a woman fails to perform her assigned mirror. Tam stops letting mirrors be judges. She uses them like tools. The approach to the climax is a braid the film pulls taut, and this recap refuses to cut. In one strand, the grant decision sits folded on embossed cardstock while the committee rehearses their press lines. In another, Brianni pitches her own repurposed version of Tam's thesis to a sponsor who prefers famous thieves to unknown inventors. In the third, Leo meets Tam without cameras and says something that sounds like an apology and might be a rehearsal. The camera takes us to the door of a room where people with pens decide whether a story will turn into resource. The door closes, we stop here as we should. After images carry the meaning forward. A workstation lit at 2:00 a.m. in the atelier, Tam's shears resting where they belong, a muslin pinned to a form that could become anything. A text on B's phone that reads, "We loved your pitch, call us," and the way her face processes hope without letting it become hunger. A receipt Sierra files for a trademark under a name that no longer hides behind anyone's initials. Ella walking home with the dress draped over her arm instead of in a garment bag. Because the thing about living is you should sometimes be allowed to carry your wins in the open. Voiceover lands the invitation that makes viewers want the feature. The point isn't whether Tam wins a grant or a gala. It's whether she keeps the right to decide what her work means when rooms get loud. It's whether B learns to share a light without dimming herself. It's whether Maris can be proud of a daughter she didn't plan for. It's whether Ella keeps being the steady center that attention tries and fails to swallow. The movie answers those in the last stretch with a decision that sits where fairy tale and real life meet. Not a spell breaking at midnight, but a woman choosing how a story talks about her at noon. If you want the explicit outcome, the envelope, the fallout, the way Brianni's plot unwinds or ties itself into a bow you can't unpick, the film holds it. What this recap can guarantee is the pleasure of watching competence become confidence without cruelty, and the relief of seeing a stepsister step out of a word built to diminish her and into the work that earns her name.